Most laws are born from boring committee meetings, but some are written in the blood, chaos, and absolute absurdity of a courtroom gone off the rails. From a man who sued a god to the trial that made it illegal to play God with the weather, we look at 15 terrifying court cases that left the legal system so traumatized they had to invent new rules just to stop it from happening again. It turns out, common sense is usually just a law created because someone did something incredibly stupid in front of a judge. 1. The case of the exploding manhole. In 1992, a lawsuit was filed against the city of Chicago involving an Edison Company cable splicer who was caught in an electrical explosion while working inside a manhole. The explosion burned 80% of the worker's body, and he died 6 months later. The resulting legal battle over infrastructure liability was a nightmare. It led to strict new city ordinances regarding the venting of underground gases and the bolting of manhole covers. Now, in many districts, it is technically a crime to tamper with a manhole, not because they're worried about you falling in, but because they're worried about the street turning into a giant cast-iron oven. 2. The Liebeck versus McDonald's coffee case. In 1992, 79-year-old Stella Liebeck suffered third-degree burns from a cup of coffee. The media mocked it as a frivolous lawsuit, but the evidence showed McDonald's was intentionally serving coffee at 190 degrees, hot enough to cause permanent disfigurement in seconds. Stella was burned with third-degree burns. The coffee soaked through her pants and onto her thighs and groin, leaving her with scarring and requiring skin grafts, weeks in the hospital, and long-term recovery. The case didn't just win Stella a settlement, it forced a global change in how warning hot labels are applied to every single consumable product you buy. It's the reason your morning latte comes with a legal disclaimer that it might actually be hot. 3. The trial of the human robot. In the early 1900s, a man named Ernie Sellers was sued for fraud after claiming he had built a sentient steam-powered man. When the robot was brought into court in London, the judge ordered it to be dismantled to prove no one was inside. The discovery of a very small, very sweaty man inside the machinery led to the Mechanical Fraud Act, which strictly regulates how autonomous machines are marketed. It's the legal ancestor of the laws that keep companies from claiming their AI is human when it's really just 3 guys in a basement in Mumbai. 4. The United States versus Cosby. In 1946, Thomas Lee Cosby, a North Carolina chicken farmer, sued the government because military planes were flying so low they were literally scaring his chickens to death. Frightened by the thunderous noise of the planes, Cosby's chickens would fly into the walls of their coops in a panic, killing themselves. He lost approximately 150 chickens this way. Before this, the law said you owned your land up to the heavens. The Supreme Court had to rewrite the rules of the sky, declaring that the air is a public highway, but anything below 500 feet still belongs to the farmer. It's the reason Delta can't fly through your living room, but also the reason you don't legally own the clouds passing over your house. 5. The God lawsuit of 1971. A man named Gerald Mayo actually tried to sue Satan and his staff in a Pennsylvania court for placing obstacles in his path and causing his downfall. The judge dismissed the case, not because Satan isn't real, but because the plaintiff failed to provide the court with an address where the U.S. Marshals could serve the devil with legal papers. This resulted in a clarification of proper service laws, essentially making it illegal to sue anyone, divine or demonic, if you can't prove they have a physical mailbox on Earth. 6. The Stambovsky versus Ackley ghost case. In 1991, a New York court had to legally decide if a house was haunted. A buyer named Jeffrey Stambovsky sued because Helen Ackley, the seller, didn't mention the poltergeists that were supposedly living there. The court famously ruled that, as a matter of law, the house is haunted, because the seller had previously promoted the ghosts in local newspapers. This led to the caveat emptor, or buyer beware disclosure laws, which in many states require you to tell a buyer if someone died in the house or if you've publicly claimed it's full of spirits. 7. The trial of the blueberry muffin. In a bizarre 1980s case in Massachusetts, Bernice Seibert sued Dunkin' Donuts because their blueberry muffin didn't contain a single real blueberry. It was all flavored sugar bits. The court battle became a war over product identity. It resulted in strict labeling laws that require food companies to use the word flavored if the main ingredient isn't actually there. It's why your blueberry sparkle cereal has to admit it has 0% real fruit in the fine print. 8. The bathtub copyright war. In the early 20th century, a man tried to copyright the idea of a bathtub with legs. He sued every manufacturer in the country, nearly bringing the plumbing industry to a halt. The Supreme Court eventually ruled that you cannot copyright a functional necessity. This case led to the useful article doctrine, which is why you can't sue someone for making a chair that looks like a chair. It's the only thing stopping billionaires from owning the rights to the concept of sitting down. 9. The Great Butter Trial of 1886. Before big tech, there was big butter. When margarine was invented, the dairy industry was so terrified they sued, claiming it was a fraudulent substance. They successfully passed laws requiring margarine to be dyed unappetizing colors like bright pink or blue so people wouldn't confuse it with real butter. It took decades of legal fighting to allow margarine to be yellow, and it resulted in the Food Standards Act, which dictates exactly what you can call milk or butter. 10. The Son of Sam laws. After the 1977 arrest of serial killer David Berkowitz, publishers were offering him millions for his story. The state was so outraged that a killer could profit from his crimes that they passed the first Son of Sam law, which mandates that any money earned from crime memoirs must go to the victims' families. It turned the true crime industry on its head, ensuring that while you can tell your story from a prison cell, you can't buy a private jet with the royalties. 11. The Trial of the Rainmaker. In 1916, the city of San Diego hired a rainmaker named Charles Hatfield to end a drought. He set up a chemical station, and coincidentally, the worst flood in the city's history followed, causing millions in damage. When the city tried to sue him, he countersued for his fee. The court eventually ruled it an act of God, which led to strict weather modification laws. Now, if you want to seed a cloud, you need more permits than you do to build a skyscraper, all because one guy was too good at his job. 12. The Deadly Umbrella Case. In a 19th century London court, a man was sued for carrying an umbrella with a sharpened tip that accidentally poked a passerby. The victim argued it was a concealed weapon. The case resulted in the Public Safety Pedestrian Act, which regulated the design of personal accessories in crowded cities. It's the reason modern umbrellas have those little plastic or rounded metal tips. It's a legal requirement to keep us from accidentally bayoneting each other on the sidewalk. 13. The Case of the Stolen Sunlight. In 1959, the Eden Rock Hotel in Miami sued the Fontainebleau Hotel because their new 14-story addition was casting a shadow over the pool. The court had to decide if sunlight was a property right. They ruled that you don't have a legal right to a view or to the sun, leading to the right to light zoning laws in major cities. It means developers can technically build a wall right in front of your window as long as it doesn't violate a specific city height limit. 14. The Exploding Cigar Trial. In a famous 1989 tort case, a man sued a tobacco company after a prank cigar blew up in his face. The defense argued it was just a joke, but the court ruled that intent to humor does not excuse intent to injure. This led from the buyer beware to the product liability laws we have today. It's the reason companies are terrified of anything exploding, even if it's supposed to be funny, and why every toy comes with a warning not to aim it at your eyes. 15. The Trial of the Empty Grave. In 1824, a family in Scotland sued a medical school after they found their relative's grave was empty. At the time, stealing a corpse wasn't technically a crime because a dead body wasn't property. The outrage from this case led to the Anatomy Act, which finally made body snatching illegal and created a legal system for donating bodies to science. It's the reason we have organ donor stickers on our IDs today, because for centuries the only way to get a body for science was to go out and liberate one. We like to think the law is a grand, logical machine, but it's actually just a massive collection of oops, let's not let that happen again. Every weird rule you follow today is usually there because someone else spent 5 years in a courtroom arguing about a coffee, a blueberry, or a ghost. Next time you see a warning "do not eat" label on a packet of silica gel, just remember somewhere out there's a court transcript that explains exactly why that label exists. See you next time. Assuming you don't try to sue the sun for your sunburn.